After withdrawing from my previous circle, I found employment as a zookeeper at a local zoo. From that day forth, I discovered I had acquired a peculiar ability, one that allowed me to comprehend the speech of animals. For instance, the tiger in the park incessantly lamented, "I am hungry, hungry, hungry," while the giraffe perpetually pondered, "Grow taller, grow taller, grow taller." Even the fish in the aquarium would periodically delve into philosophical musings, questioning, "Who am I and where am I?" The remarkably striking red-crowned crane, aloof and judgmental, would assess, "This human has gazed at the zookeeper several times today, despite already having a partner. Let us hope that comrade Wen does not fall for such illusions." I, known by my given name Wen Weixi, responded, "Thank you, dear crane." A little dog that had wandered around the zoo for 3 days was reluctant to return home. Following its mental directions, I escorted it back, and faced with its owner's overwhelming gratitude and confusion, I simply inquired, "Is it a male?" The owner enthusiastically replied, "Indeed, a remarkably beautiful fox dog." I thought to myself, I cannot possibly reveal to the owner that the dog is enamored with the foxes in our zoo, and that's why it refuses to go home. Later, a travel variety show selected our zoo, and celebrities gathered around the glass enclosure to observe the beluga whales in a frenzy. I awkwardly chuckled from the sidelines. "Don't worry about it. It's just sharpening its teeth." 1. Throughout my life, I have been rather unfortunate. I faced failures in both major and minor examinations, often losing belongings for no discernible reason. Umbrellas would invariably break in the wind or rain, and I would trip on flat ground while walking. After being discovered by a talent scout solely due to my singular good looks, I found myself unceremoniously dismissed by a supervisor who took a disliking to me after just 3 months. Did I sighed as my resumes vanished into a void of silence, a fate I had grown accustomed to. Thus, I sought the counsel of a well-known online fortune teller, hoping for some clarity. "You're back for another reading?" The fortune teller, an old acquaintance, offered me a customary discount. "Yes," I explained, "I've been let go again, and I wish to know where I might find employment." The fortune teller expressed sympathy and proceeded with my reading. "Ah," she remarked, "this reading is quite different. It indicates that you are on the verge of a turnaround, where you will encounter a benefactor, leading to a smooth ascent in your career." My spirits lifted. Is that true? Despite enduring years of misfortune, I maintained the daily habit of purchasing lottery tickets, clinging to the notion that perhaps one day I would experience a rebound. Indeed, the fortune teller affirmed, "Your fortune lies to the south. Seek work in that direction." I glanced at the city map. To the south lay only mountains, and if I were to seek employment, my only option was a newly opened zoo in the southern city. A zoo is a zoo, I thought. My university major was somewhat related. The application process unfolded surprisingly smoothly, with the interviewer exhibiting great enthusiasm and promptly offering me the position. "The director has reviewed your resume and finds it exceptional. You are a rare talent, and the director is determined to have you on board." Really? I was taken aback, resolved to repay the director's kindness with diligence. "I will certainly do my best." Thus, after a brief training, I officially became a zookeeper, one capable of understanding animal speech. The staff at the Southern City Zoo was not particularly large, likely due to its recent opening, yet the visitor turnout was substantial, given the excellent facilities and diverse array of animals. On my very first day, when I distinctly heard the tiger plaintively say, "I am hungry," I nearly choked in shock. With no one around, the tiger roared at me from behind the iron bars, a rather intimidating sight. However, my naturally slow reaction meant I displayed little outward emotion, and fear did not readily manifest on my face. Before the sensation of fear could wash over me, I stared at the tiger for a considerable duration, eventually confirming that I was not hallucinating. It was indeed saying, "I am so hungry," but hadn't it just been fed? Thus, at the end of my shift, I mustered the courage to voice my concerns to my supervisor. "I believe the food might be insufficient. Perhaps Feifei hasn't eaten enough?" Feifei was the name of that particular tiger, and considering its youth, I speculated it might still be in a growth phase, hence its hunger. The supervisor appeared startled. "Is that so?" Then, to my bewilderment, the supervisor dialed a number and began speaking. "Director, the newly hired zookeeper says Feifei seems to be underfed." I thought to myself, why involve the director? Will I have displeased him by questioning my work so early on? As darkness clouded my thoughts, the supervisor nodded repeatedly before handing the phone to me. I hesitantly took the call. "Hello, Director." To be honest, since my employment began, I had yet to meet the director. My colleagues merely mentioned he was away on business. The voice on the other end was youthful and remarkably pleasant. "Hello, you must be Shaowen. You say Feifei is not satiated?" Yes, I hesitated. Every time I passed by, It calls out to me. But I feel it isn't trying to eat me. It is simply hungry. Is that what you heard? I did not notice the peculiarity in his question and answered honestly. Why yes, do not concern yourself. The clear and melodious voice remained gentle, yet after a moment of contemplation, he uttered a rather cold remark. The amount of food is correct. That was merely a performance intended for you. I was taken aback. Huh. The director succinctly concluded. It was merely indulging its appetite. I was left in utter bewilderment. Afterward, the director offered me a few words of encouragement, expressing his appreciation for my concern for the animals and encouraging me to continue my efforts, promising a bonus for the month, before politely bidding farewell and ending the call. You'll get used to it over time. The supervisor patted my shoulder. Feifei isn't the only one who puts on a show. I thought, really, still skeptical. I changed out of my uniform and quietly circled back to the tiger's enclosure, leaning against the wall to eavesdrop on the happenings inside. Indeed, Feifei was conversing with itself that I've called for so long. Why hasn't anyone come to feed me? The new zookeeper must have a soft heart. Lily said this trick works wonders, but Lily is a liar. Woo. It must be that wretched director's doing. Feifei wants a snack, followed by a series of rolling sounds. I thought, what on earth? I was still reeling from the revelation when my phone suddenly buzzed with a friend request. The profile of the sender displayed a rather mocking smile, with the words Southern City Zoo beneath, and the name was simply a period, accompanied by the message. Do you believe? Now, I exclaimed, what? I hastily accepted the request and replied with 3 roses and 3 smiley faces. The director truly has an uncanny foresight. The director replied with a smiley face. Keep up the good work, smiley face. I mused. I changed his contact name to director, only to realize it began with the letter Y, and I had to scroll to the bottom of my friend list to find him. After some thought, I reverently altered the note to AAA director. Thus, I positioned myself prominently among intermediaries and channels, ensuring I was at the very top. 2. After spending some time together, I have become acquainted with most of the animals in the zoo. I have also gained a rough understanding of their daily thoughts. For instance, the monkeys in the monkey enclosure. At first, I thought they were merely exuberant, gathering around me whenever they spotted me, until I overheard them saying, haha, that single zookeeper is back. Let me see. She is still single. No way, aren't all the staff in our zoo married? So, she must be the new one. The zookeeper is quite delicate looking. How come there's not a single male around her? Ha ha, single Xiao Wen. Amidst a throng of monkeys, I could only respond with a silent expression. It appears that humans are no match for monkeys and nothing more than that. Another example is the stunning and healthy red-crowned crane in the crane garden, who always exudes an air of tranquility, yet engages with me daily in profound discussions about life. Comrade Wen, health is the foundation of revolution. The crane elegantly preens its feathers, speaking in a gentle tone. You should learn from my daily routine. I replied, Brother Crane, you go to bed at 7 every night. I simply cannot manage that. Occasionally, it takes an interest in commenting on the visiting tourists. Why is that human staring at the zookeeper for so long? Doesn't he have a partner? The red-crowned crane spreads its wings, offering sage advice. Comrade Wen, you must not be deceived by such duplicitous, fickle-minded individuals. I responded, understood, Brother Crane. It also expresses concern for the zoo's affairs, delivering sharp critiques when Feifei and Lily cry out for food. Comrade Wen, one must not indulge children. How can a greenhouse flower grow without hardship? I replied, I absolutely do not spoil them. The red-crowned crane seemed satisfied, but then, suddenly serious, stated, I have also heard that the little kung next door has invited you to watch him display his feathers, demanding a mate as a reward. This is nothing short of corruption. It must be nipped in the bud. I hurriedly concurred. That little kung hasn't even entered his mating season. He has probably, just joking. Rest assured, I will sternly reprimand him. Then there's Feifei from the tiger enclosure. It possesses a lively yet naive character. Although I do not provide it with extra meals, it bears no grudges, happily chattering to itself every day, or conversing with the little bird perched upon its head. Occasionally, it asks me, Zookeeper, when will the director return? I find it quite adorable, so I smiled and softly suggested, I'll ask for you. The next moment, it let out a couple of excited yelps, exclaiming, I hope he never comes back, ha. I thought to myself, Director, you have truly misjudged. The director occasionally sends me a couple of WeChat messages, all in a very official tone, inquiring about my work status, my recent mood, and whether I have any suggestions for improvements at the zoo, and invariably, he veers towards the topic of increased bonuses. I am taken aback, feeling both anxious and deeply touched to the point of tears. Ever since I arrived at Nanjing Zoo, I have felt remarkably fortunate. The director must surely be my benefactor. I prepared a gift for the director, a watch, nothing overly extravagant, but heartfelt in its intention. It seems the director has been away on business for a month now. I wonder what official matter could require such an extended absence. Out of curiosity, I asked my supervisor during the shift handover, who looked at me with a peculiar expression before covering her mouth with a laugh. Wen, you haven't met the director yet, have you? I felt inexplicably nervous. It won't be long, she pondered. The director recently went to negotiate a collaboration with Huayong. He mentioned yesterday that it was successful. Huayong? ISNT, that one of the largest companies in the entertainment industry? What could the zoo possibly collaborate on with the entertainment world? I felt a bit bewildered. Sister Kai, is the director a celebrity? The supervisor chuckled. What are you saying? Wen? It's that banana TV under Huayong that is launching a self-produced variety show, and our zoo is the first filming location. This sounded rather absurd. I was utterly astonished, rendered speechless at first. Since our zoo has just opened, we need publicity. And collaborating with Huayong to film a variety show is the best promotional strategy, the supervisor said with a smile, but this is all what the director said. I don't really understand these things. I remarked, the director is quite impressive. Is this a promotional strategy that can be employed so casually? It seems remarkably overpowered. The supervisor patted my shoulder. The director specifically mentioned you. I exclaimed, huh? Wen, you're just too low-key. We had no idea what you did before, she said. If the director hadn't mentioned that he had seen your performance, we wouldn't have thought of it, given how long you have worked alongside celebrities. I was left dumbfounded. The director has seen my performance? When was this? I have only been in the industry for 3 months. And I've only danced once or twice in informal settings like comic conventions. How could someone like me, a virtually unknown intern artist, be recognized? The supervisor, oblivious to my shock, continued to share cheerfully. We even went to ask the director for your dance video. I thought. My mind went blank. Feeling this was the darkest day of my career, a quintessentially mortifying moment. However, the director said he didn't have a video, he saw it live. The supervisor changed her tone, looking rather regretful. Wen, you're so good-looking and have a great figure. Your dancing must be beautiful. Just in time for this year's annual meeting, our team is still short one performance. Just as I let out a sigh of relief, I nearly choked. Sister Kai, perhaps we can discuss this later. My takeout is about to arrive. The supervisor finally relented, allowing me to leave. After narrowly escaping a disaster, I returned home. Staring at the screen of my phone, where a mocking avatar loomed, my thoughts in disarray. The embarrassment of my past being unearthed left me restless. Yet the director's considerate silence filled me with gratitude. From the supervisor's demeanor, it was evident she had no idea of the magnitude of my past as a fading artist. Even if she searched online, she would find no trace of me. So, did the director truly know me from before? If he had even the slightest knowledge of my past, which had led to my dismissal within 3 months, he would never have so readily welcomed me into the zoo with such generous compensation and bonuses. I mused, the director is truly a good person. If only I could erase his memory of seeing me dance. 3. The next morning, I returned to clock in at work. It was Wednesday, typically a day with a moderate flow of visitors, but today felt different. Just as I was about to feed Fei, I noticed a large group of tourists approaching. Leading the group were 2 young men. One, with an elegant appearance and a warm smile, had shoulder-length chestnut hair and was keenly observing his surroundings, occasionally conversing with a middle-aged man behind him. The other, when I glanced over, caused me to freeze for a couple of seconds. There was no other reason. This young man possessed an astonishingly beautiful face, with exquisite bone structure and features reminiscent of a renowned painting, with dark hair and eyes. Despite his casual attire and a white hat, he exuded an air of unapproachable elegance. Yet his expression was not cold. He wore a slight smile, though it seemed languid and indifferent, creating a strangely familiar feeling, as if I had seen him somewhere before. Hey, Jigo, the tiger's zookeeper is a girl. The chestnut-haired youth remarked upon seeing me. That's rare. The dark-haired youth remained silent, merely observing me, until he finally spoke slowly. Paper tiger, doesn't he bite? The tourist appears to be a familiar face, with a voice that is quite pleasant and somewhat reminiscent. However, I generally refrain from initiating conversations with visitors, so I remain focused on feeding Fei. To my surprise, Fei, who was once full of energy, now cowers in a corner, softly whimpering. Concerned for it, I move a little closer and overhear snippets of conversation. Why has the director returned? Feifei's reign as the king has come to an end. No more fishing around either. I am left speechless. At that moment, I hear the chestnut-haired young man cheerfully remark, Jigo, why do I feel like your tiger recognizes you? Yet your employees seem oblivious? Like a thunderclap, his words shatter the chaos in my mind. The smile on his face, which strikes me as familiar, mirrors that of the director's profile picture perfectly. In the next instant, the dark-haired young man raises an eyebrow and speaks clearly, Shaowen? The director? Suddenly realizing. I straighten up with a jolt. Present. The chestnut-haired young man chuckles at my reaction. Hello, director, I say, my nerves making me somewhat incoherent. I apologize for not recognizing you. New employee? The chestnut-haired young man continues, that explains it. You've probably never seen him before. Why do you talk so much? The director, while smiling, carries a tone of subtle sarcasm. Hurry up and show him around. Once you're done, you can leave. He then turns to me, no worries. You can continue working. What's the rush? The chestnut-haired young man, unfazed, regards me with an unexpectedly amiable gaze. Miss Wen, is it? I feel a bit awkward, unsure if I should engage him in conversation, and I can only respond with a vague You seem a bit familiar, he muses, deep in thought. Before looking up again, Jigo, weren't you reluctant to be the host of the show? Surely having your employee do it is acceptable? I am bewildered. Huh? I just remembered, I've seen you before, the gentle young man says meaningfully. You used to be in the industry, right? Your image and demeanor are quite fitting for a variety show. My confusion deepens. Huh? If you don't mind, would you like to discuss this in the director's office? He gestures invitingly. Jigo, is that all right? The director remains silent, merely watching me. It's up to you if you wish to. Noticing that the director does not seem displeased, I timidly nod. Please go ahead. Half an hour later, seated in the spacious and brightly lit director's office, I finally grasp his intent. The travel variety show TA and TA's wonderful journey that the supervisor mentioned last night has indeed been secured. This young man, Mo Sun, is a high-ranking official at Huayang and the show's chief director, here to scout locations, with plans to set up in the zoo in a couple of days. They are in need of a zoo guide to accompany the guests on their tasks, and having asked the director, who was reluctant, they turned to me instead. But I've only just started working. I'm not very familiar with the zoo, I say bashfully. There are many others who would be more suitable. Rest assured. It is a paid position, Mo Sun replies, shaking his fingers to signal an assistant to hand me a contract. You can check the compensation. This contract will not conflict with your zoo employment. Moreover, since it's a collaborative variety show, your director has agreed that this counts as normal work. So your salary 1 TB deducted. The director remains silent, implying his consent. I initially want to decline, but my eyes betray me, darting to the compensation figure on the contract. Staring at the dazzling figure, I gasp inwardly. I have never seen so much money in my life. As an orphan raised on assistance, I've faced misfortune but never any significant hardships. I work part-time while studying, relying on government aid to get into university, and have managed to grow up safely. Yet, I am equally impoverished. Otherwise, I wouldn't have signed with an agency to become an artist. My lifelong dream is to own a house, but since graduation, my savings have never surpassed 5 digits, and I've been living on a shoestring budget, making homeownership a distant dream. My gaze fixates on that figure, and before I have time to think further, I blurt out, Director, may I accept? Mo Sun can't help but laugh. Why are you asking him? He glances teasingly at the silent young man beside him. It seems your employee is like a child you've raised, needing to seek your approval for everything. My face flushes with embarrassment as I defend the director. The director is my boss. It's only natural for an employee to follow their boss's arrangements. The director looks down at me, succinctly stating, if you want to go, then go. I still have some reservations, but what about my duties as a keeper? You can still feed the animals when it doesn't conflict with the recording schedule. If there is a conflict, I will find someone to cover for you, he responds, revealing that languid, subtle smile once more, encouragingly adding, Shaowen, this is our zoo's first step in external promotion. Work hard, and I'll increase your bonus when you return. Once again, I am moved to tears, to the point where I overlook Mo Sun's ghostly expression. Ugh. Mo Sun rubs his arms, trying to regain his composure. So, take a look at the contract. If everything is in order, we can sign it. There's also a script and process you need to familiarize yourself with. Still lost in thoughts of how I must repay the director's kindness, I assure him, I will do my utmost. Before the recording, I reviewed the list of guests. The rising star Yi Bai, the award-winning actress Xu Yi, the top influencer He Suiyan, singer Wang Xingchuan, and idol Qi Xian from a girl group. All 5 are prominent figures, particularly the latter 3, who have previously experienced their own share of struggles and controversies. They gained fame from participating in the same variety show, which was later cancelled, but I have certainly heard of it. Hwyong truly lives up to its reputation as one of the largest companies in the entertainment industry, managing to secure such high-profile guests. The director's prowess in collaborating with such a company is indeed remarkable. After rehearsing a few times and memorizing the basic procedures, I began diligently communicating with the animals, encouraging them to cooperate during the recording and not to make things difficult for the guests, particularly the monkeys, who must refrain from mocking the guests for being single. Although the director reassured me that they will cooperate, he cannot comprehend animal speech, so I felt it prudent to communicate with them first. From my very first day, I noticed that the animals at Nanqing Zoo possess an extraordinary intelligence, lacking any untamed wildness, instead exhibiting a remarkable sensitivity and understanding. Most of them seem to comprehend my words, and some can even engage in seamless communication with me. For example, Fei Fei. It excitedly asks me, "Sister Xiaowen, will the guests choose me?" According to the rules, the guests must select their animal partners, who will accompany them throughout the recording of the entire episode. However, as far as I know, they typically choose small, non-threatening animals like birds, foxes, or raccoons. Under normal circumstances, no one would opt for a tiger as their partner. I look at Fei Fei, majestic in its appearance, feeling conflicted. I want to avoid deceiving it or dampening its spirits, and after a long pause, I finally say, "Can I choose you?" "Yes, yes." Fei Fei responds enthusiastically. "What about Lily?" Lily says it also wants a partner. I am at a loss for how to answer this question, and ultimately decide to give up. On the day the production team officially commenced, the director was also present on site. Contrary to my initial impression of him as a phantom, he had been diligently residing at the park daily since his business trip concluded. He spent his time either seated in his office tending to paperwork or descending to conduct inspections. This term seemed rather jarring. I often felt that the director, clad in casual attire and appearing to saunter through the grounds, was not truly at leisure but rather earnestly surveying the land as a king would inspect his realm. Each time he made an appearance, the animals exhibited a remarkable decorum. Occasionally, he would stand by the lake belonging to the crane enclosure, leaning against a nearby fence, the shimmering water reflecting the golden rays of the setting sun, as if he were merging with the entirety of the universe. Yet, he always seemed to sense my gaze and would turn to me, hands in pockets. "Xiaowen?" "Hello, director," I greeted obediently. "I'm here to feed brother he, the red-crowned crane." "Let me," he replied nonchalantly, his voice clear and soothing, and his expression softening. "I'll take care of it." "All right." I dared not look up, lowering my head as I handed him the bucket. The director was exceedingly handsome, and I feared becoming entranced, risking an embarrassing display of infatuation. On the day of the shoot, the guests and crew had already gathered, and I overheard my colleagues excitedly discussing which star was the most attractive, while my gaze subtly drifted back to the director. "Xiaowen, what do you think?" a colleague asked. "Isn't Hisueon incredibly handsome?" I let out a slight, feeling somewhat guilty, I suppose. I glanced at Hisueon and had to concede that this top-tier celebrity was indeed good-looking, though his style was utterly distinct from that of the director. Hisueon's features were striking, his smile warm and radiant, complemented by a pair of bright, dog-like eyes. In contrast, the director's visage bore a more assertive quality, handsomely sharp. "Yu Yebai is quite handsome as well," another colleague countered. "He's the epitome of a high-altitude flower. My favorite type." "Xiaowen, tell me, who's more handsome, Yu Yebai or Hisueon?" I replied. They have different styles, so it's not quite fair to compare." Though I spoke thus, I personally believed the director to be the most attractive. But I could not voice this sentiment and opted for silence. I found myself glancing at the director again, but he seemed to notice, our eyes locking momentarily. I quickly averted my gaze, feigning nonchalance. However, at that moment, my phone vibrated. "AAA director, are you feeling nervous?" I surmised that he had discerned my unease and discomfort, yet such feelings had no bearing on the recording. I stifled my embarrassment and replied, "A little." The director did not respond, but the next moment, I sensed a stillness beside me. Turning my head, I saw he had approached, his dark, luminous eyes peering at me from beneath the brim of his hat. "I thought you had some experience in this area." He indeed knew of my brief past as an artist. My ears flushed with embarrassment, my voice dwindling. "I'm just afraid something might go awry and embarrass our zoo." That one tea happen. He raised an eyebrow, speaking slowly. Wen, have a bit more confidence. You are one of my valued employees. Besides, they wouldn't dare edit or film recklessly. That's not it, I replied, a tinge of frustration in my tone. Director, I've always been quite the unlucky person. The type to trip over nothing on the street. But I feel like since you began working here, our zoo has improved remarkably, the director remarked nonchalantly. Could it be that you've shared your good fortune with those around you? His voice, laced with laughter, was clear and melodious, teasing yet earnest. I instinctively retorted, rather. It's you and the zoo that have bestowed good luck upon me. Then that's settled. The director's gaze softened slightly, his lips curving into a gentle smile devoid of any superfluous emotion, only encouragement. Rest assured, I'll be watching over you. Even if you stumble, I'll help you back up. As the recording officially began, and the guests had assembled, I took a deep breath and stepped forward to introduce myself. Hello everyone. I am Wen Weixi, a zookeeper at Nanching Zoo, and your animal liaison during this marvelous journey. Wow, Qi Xian exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. The liaison sister is so beautiful. I smiled shyly. He Sueon greeted me cheerfully, while Yu Yebai succinctly stated, hello. Shu Yi smiled slightly, radiating elegance. You seem much younger than me. May I call you Teacher Wen? Wang Xingchuan chimed in before I could respond. Then, Teacher Wen, we'll be relying on you moving forward. The guests were all amiable, appearing to be quite easy to get along with. I breathed a sigh of relief and began guiding them through the process. Next, we will decide each person's animal partner. I distributed the animal headshots. After selecting, you may engage closely with the animals. The first enclosure we approached was that of the tigers. Fei Fei was enjoying the scenery and, upon noticing our presence, excitedly bounded over. Sister Wen. A large tiger charged forward with a roar, startling the guests, who instinctively took a few steps back. I remained unfazed. That's Fei Fei. She has recently come of age, and there's no cause for alarm. She's a bit lively and enjoys jumping around. Fei Fei, brimming with excitement, inquired. Sister Wen, does anyone want to choose me? I asked. Does anyone wish to select Fei Fei as their partner? The guests exchanged glances. Though the notion of an animal partner did not necessarily entail close contact, it appeared that none were bold enough to choose such a formidable creature. Observing Fei Fei's sparkling eyes, I mustered my courage to add, Fei Fei is actually quite gentle. In an effort to comply, Fei Fei dashed to the edge of the enclosure, roaring at us. Guests. Silence enveloped us, and just as I was prepared to concede defeat, a butterfly suddenly flitted by. Fei Fei's attention was diverted, and she began to chase the butterfly. Yet, to the guests, it appeared as if she were baring her teeth and roaring in the cage, seemingly poised to leap out and attack. Fearing the guests would be frightened, I instinctively began to communicate with her. Fei Fei, I'll catch the butterfly for you. Please take a step back and don't scare it. Then, to the astonishment of the guests, Fei Fei actually stepped back, sitting down and ceasing her roars, her tail swaying side to side like a well-behaved house cat. Teacher Wen, can this tiger understand what you're saying? Shu Yi asked incredulously, was she really trying to catch the butterfly? Could it be that there's such an intelligent tiger? Or is it trained? Qi Xian's eyes widened. Teacher Wen, that's amazing. It's not training. We don't engage in animal performances at our zoo, I clarified immediately upon hearing such remarks. I've only been here for a short while. It's just that Fei Fei is particularly perceptive. Having said this, I, drawing upon my 2 months of experience, carefully caught the unfortunate butterfly and cradled it in my hands. Fei Fei, come here. Fei Fei eagerly approached the edge of the enclosure, and I naturally placed the butterfly upon her nose, gently patting the king character atop her head. Would you kindly add subtitles in post-production? After completing all of this, I finally recognized something amiss. This is a perilous endeavor. Please maintain a distance of 1 meter when observing ferocious beasts in the zoo, and do not approach the barriers. Children, do not attempt to imitate. My remarks elicited laughter from the guests. He Swain inquired if I choose it as my animal companion. Will I be able to stroke its head like Teacher Wen does? After a brief pause, he amended his statement. Actually, there's no need to stroke its head. Just getting a little closer would suffice. I couldn't help but chuckle. That is indeed possible. Qi Xian remarked, Brother-in, you possess remarkable courage. He Swain appeared slightly embarrassed. I fear ghosts, but tigers are manageable. Fei Fei chimed in. Sister Wen, does this brother choose me? Seeing its joy, I couldn't help but share in the delight. Then Mr. His animal companion is undoubtedly Fei Fei. The subsequent choices proceeded exceptionally smoothly. Qi Xian fell head over heels for the red-crowned crane, insisting on having only Crane Brother. I engaged in a lengthy conversation with Crane Brother, who eventually reluctantly agreed to cooperate with the young girl's performance. Shui selected the Snow Fox, and Little Snow had longed to appear on television, thus fulfilling its wish. Wang Xingchuan opted for a raccoon. As for Yu Yabai, he merely expressed a fondness for aquatic animals and wished to visit the aquarium. Ultimately, he successfully chose the newly born beluga whale. The beluga's mother is named Huan Huan. Its father Lele, and it goes by Little Bai. Upon seeing me approach, it happily asked Sister Wen, "Do you want to come swim with me today?" It poked its round forehead out for a pat, but fearing my hands were unclean, I only splashed a handful of water on it, saying, "Sister Wen Ti swim. But this brother will surely dive in and play with you." Yu Yabai is renowned for his swimming prowess, having gained fame for performing an underwater scene in a film. Upon hearing this, he crouched down and waved at Little Bai. The beluga glided to Yu Yabai's side, greeting him with hello. Its voice resembled a melodious song, emitting soft ooze that melted the hearts of the guests. Qi Xian cupped her face and exclaimed, "Teacher Wen, the animals in your zoo are truly remarkable. How adorable." Wang Xingchuan concurred. Moreover, it seems that Teacher Wen can communicate with them effortlessly. This is simply astonishing. Throughout the journey, the guests expressed their admiration, continually exclaiming wow as they witnessed my interactions with the animals. As the day concluded without incident, I exhaled a sigh of relief at the moment we officially wrapped up, rubbing my slightly sore neck while glancing towards the filming crew. The director remained present, even offering me a faint smile. He gave me a thumbs up, his gaze calm. Yet, I inexplicably felt that he was awaiting my approach. I removed my earpiece, preparing to walk towards him when, perhaps due to the smooth pebbles beneath my feet, I slipped as I turned. Though the timing was unfortunate, I felt an inexplicable sense of resolution. Indeed, I was destined to fall, yet thankfully not during filming. While I was still relieved, an arm suddenly grasped me. The individual easily supported my back until I regained my balance, then released me, adjusting the slightly askew brim of my hat. "Didn't I say I would catch you?" he teased, lowering his eyes as if jesting. "You wouldn't be able to fall even if you tried." The director's demeanor was exceedingly proper, and his hand, having briefly touched my back, had already retreated. As he stood there composed, a subtle smile lingering in his eyes. Yet, I remained frozen in place, my gaze locked onto him, my heart pounding violently. Overwhelming emotions flooded my chest, and a stark realization surged through my mind. "You are finished, Wen Weixi. How could you harbor such illicit feelings for your superior?" 5. I returned to my rented apartment in a daze. For 22 years, I had never experienced any intimate contact with the opposite sex, let alone developed feelings. To be honest, my connection with the director was not particularly close. I hardly knew him, nor could I comprehend why I found myself attracted to him. Perhaps, possibly, it was simply that the director was quite handsome. Yet, I felt that this inappropriate sentiment had arisen even before I had met him. Surely, it couldn't be because he frequently spoke of increasing my salary? That indeed seemed plausible. Or perhaps it was because, in my otherwise unfortunate life, someone had suddenly offered me an umbrella of support. From the moment I encountered the director, the clouds parted, the rain ceased, and life became remarkably smooth and beautiful. He was the turning point in my life, making it difficult not to feel something. Regaining my composure, I stared blankly at the smiley face avatar on my phone screen. But what difference did it make that I liked the director? Could I truly confess my feelings to him? How could I dare? A person as accomplished as the director was not someone I could covet. I scolded myself harshly and redirected my gaze to the gift I had prepared for the director. The pristine white wrapping paper adorned with small hearts seemed innocuous before, yet now, it felt laden with guilt. I hastily replaced the wrapping. Yes, I must abandon this notion and retire early. I must not let the director discover this matter. 5 hours later, at 2 a.m, I opened the chat window with the fortune teller. "I want to ask you something," I typed slowly, battling dark circles under my eyes. Is there a possibility that my noble benefactor could also resolve my romantic entanglements? To my surprise, the fortune teller was also a night owl, active at this ungodly hour. Fortune teller. Me. I was just asking casually, how about you calculate my romantic prospects? The fortune teller promptly replied, "You like him." Me. The fortune teller continued without delay, "Don't worry, darling, I just calculated. It's a destined match, a golden boy and a jade girl." My heart sank like a stone. "Forget it. I know you're just trying to comfort me." I'm heading to bed. Good night. After sending the payment for the fortune-telling, I buried my head under the blanket, determined to cast aside my distracting thoughts and fall asleep. 6. I have few friends, as I have been working continuously, and I am not well acquainted with my roommates. I didn't know to whom I could confide my feelings for the director, so I chose to share them with the animals at the zoo. Especially during these days of filming, I had formed a close bond with several animal companions, so it felt only natural to confide my troubles to them, ensuring that no one else would find out. However, it was evident that the animals struggled to understand. For instance, I asked Feifei, "What kind of person do you think the director is?" Feifei replied, "A big bad guy." I continued, "What if someone likes the director?" Feifei exclaimed, "That's not as good as liking me." Sister Wen, who is that big fool who has a crush on the director? I want to tell Lily and laugh at her together. I was speechless. If Lily knew, it would be tantamount to the whole zoo knowing. The monkeys in the monkey enclosure might even surround me next time, mocking me for being the fool who likes the director. Such a scenario was absolutely unacceptable. I resolved to confide in a more dignified animal, and the red-crowned crane seemed quite suitable. "Crane brother," I said, feeding it while expressing my dilemma. "Do you have a favorite crane?" True to form, Crane brother cut straight to the heart of the matter. "Comrade Wen, are you in a predicament?" I hesitated. Not quite. It's more of a one-sided affection. Crane brother mused for a moment. "Which young man has captured your heart? You can bring him to me for inspection. If he is suitable, I can have the crane community in the garden act as matchmakers for you." Brother Crane, it's the principal." "The principal?" The red-crowned crane became agitated, turning its head. "Comrade Wen, have you made up your mind?" The principal's words carry more weight. "We shall emulate the wild geese and form a 9-character formation to support you," Brother Crane decisively proclaimed. "How about we express your feelings tonight?" I was instantly alarmed. "No, Brother Crane." After much persuasion on my part, the red-crowned crane reluctantly abandoned the idea of playing matchmaker for me. Liking someone does not necessarily equate to confessing. I merely sought some advice and had no delusions of anything serious with the principal. At last, I arrived beside the experienced love guru, the snow fox named Xiao Shui. Xiao Shui listened attentively until I finished, then elegantly groomed her fur. "Zookeeper, this matter is not insurmountable." I sighed. "I know I should give up, but..." "Who said you need to give up?" The snow fox fixed her wide eyes on me. "Haven't you heard the saying? The heart delights in proximity. You are so beautiful. With just a little cunning, the principal will be easily won over." Xiao Shui patiently coaxed. "Have you ever considered what men think about? You could enter his office alone and deliver a heartfelt confession, with your delicate shoulders slightly exposed, looking pitiful, and then consummate your feelings. Everything will fall into place. Isn't that just seduction?" My earlobes flushed crimson and I stammered, How could that be possible?" "The principal is a very upright person, and he is quite handsome himself." Xiao Shui regarded me with a rather peculiar gaze. "Well, you might not know," before she could finish. A cacophony of barking erupted nearby. I glanced down to see a snow-white fox dog digging at the enclosure. Xiao Shui, I'm here." Xiao Shui beamed with satisfaction. "You see? With just a little cunning, males of different species come knocking at my door. Why wouldn't the principal do the same for you?" Xiao Shui is a stunning beauty among foxes. I certainly cannot compare. I had overstepped. After exchanging pleasantries with the various animals, it was time for recording. Today's recording schedule clashed with my work, but my supervisor assured me someone had been found to cover for me, allowing me to arrive at the recording site without worry. When the recording concluded, I discovered it was the principal who had filled in for me. He had just exited the tiger's enclosure, appearing lost in thought, his expression somewhat absent-minded, while Feifei languished in the corner of the cage, failing to rush towards me with her usual enthusiasm. Before I could decide whether to call out to the principal, I noticed him looking down, pulling out his phone. "Oh." I blinked, still processing, when the phone rang. The principal turned his head and caught sight of me attempting to flee. "Wen." I pulled out my phone and saw indeed it was a WeChat message from the principal, inquiring about my whereabouts. I stuttered. "Principal, were you the one who fed me?" He did not respond, merely repeating in a flat tone, "AAA principal?" After a pause, the principal raised an eyebrow. "You don't know my name?" I suddenly realized he had seen my phone screen's contact label, and I wished to dig a hole and disappear. My voice was barely a whisper. "I know." "Oh," he asked slowly. "Then what is my name?" "Ji Xingyun." I bit my lip. "Principal, I just added an A so it would appear at the top of my contacts. My voice trailed off. Realizing what I had impulsively revealed, I stood frozen in place, wishing to vanish from this world. Let's not dwell on that, he said. I am more curious about another matter. I instinctively asked, what matter? Fei mentioned there is a big fool in the zoo who likes bad boys. He inquired calmly, do you know who that fool is? My soul seemed to float out of my body at the question, leaving me with a blank stare at the principal. My thoughts became chaotic. The principal knows? How could he know? Can he understand animal speech? What does he know? If you tell me, I'll give you a raise. His voice softened, his dark eyes fixed on me, unmistakably laced with mirth. My lovely Xiaowen? Lovely Xiaowen was my former Weibo name for my time as an entertainer. However, that account had merely a handful of followers, likely mostly dead accounts, utterly forgotten. How could anyone know? How could it be that it was the principal? I felt my CPU nearing meltdown, covering my burning face, and fled in utter disgrace. 7. The principal did not pursue me, allowing me to escape. That evening, he sent me a message. Change the contact label, he wrote. Actually, you could pin me directly. I hesitated for a moment. What should I change it to? He countered. What do you think? I blushed again, feeling utterly perplexed. Does the principal mean what I think he means? The principal replied. What else would you think? Do I seem like someone who would engage in workplace harassment towards a female subordinate? I asked. But why? The principal replied. Do you want to know? Come to my office tomorrow. I intended to agree immediately, but abruptly recalled the snow fox's words, and my CPU nearly short-circuited again. I decided to change the subject. Can you really understand animal speech? Yes, he replied. We can communicate with animals. The purpose of our zoo is to shelter injured animals, enlighten them, and eventually return them to the wild, he added. Of course, some animals seek us out and prefer to stay, which is why the South City Zoo will continue to operate. I had a multitude of questions. If you can understand animals, why can I hear them too? The principal took a long time to respond, and eventually sent a voice message. Who knows, he laughed. Perhaps it's because you are destined to be the bride of the G family? The phone hit my face, causing a slight sting. I thought I would not sleep well tonight, yet surprisingly, I quickly fell into a dream. I felt I had a wonderful dream, though I couldn't recall the details. Upon waking, I found myself smiling and in high spirits. The next day, I brought a gift for the principal and knocked on his office door before the recording. As far as I knew, the principal was usually the first to arrive at the zoo, demonstrating his dedication as a responsible leader. You here so early. Once again, the principal opened the door, and upon seeing the box in my hands, he was taken aback. Is this a gift? I nodded. Yes. Oh, and who is it for? Ji Xingyuan leaned against the door, watching me with keen interest. Who is it for? I was a bit confused. It's for you. And who am I? He chuckled. The boss, the principal? Or, I suddenly understood his implication, and the box in my hands felt hot. I emphasized, it's a gift for the principal, for my esteemed boss. Then I thank you on his behalf. Ji Xingyuan leaned slightly closer, whispering near my ear, but it's not work hours yet, so I'm not the principal. I was taken aback, and my entire face flushed rapidly. Yet I stood my ground. Could you ask the principal about the answer to that question from yesterday? You see, he said with a laugh in his voice, it's quite simple. Really, I am an ardent admirer of the charming little one. My mind buzzed. How could I possibly have a fan? If I were to say it was love at first sight, would you think me shallow? After a moment's contemplation, he continued, in any case, I witnessed your inaugural performance on stage and found you utterly delightful. Thus began my fervent pursuit of stardom. And so it was. It was winter, and he was out for a stroll with the persistent snow fox when he caught sight of the girl illuminated by the spotlight. She must have been quite cold, yet her expression remained unchanged. Her dance was not particularly graceful, even somewhat awkward, and she nearly stumbled mid-performance. Yet for some inexplicable reason, there was an enchanting charm about her. Perhaps it was the earnestness in her demeanor, those eyes brimming with stars, which was simply captivating. Even after her performance, he witnessed her nearly lose her balance once more, only to quickly regain her composure, casually purchasing a lottery ticket which she carefully tucked away. Ji Xingyuan couldn't help but chuckle. Despite the minor misfortunes, her earnest anticipation for each new day was undeniably adorable. The snow fox teased, Director, are you smitten? He did not deny it. Indeed, she is quite beautiful. Most people find their idols appealing at first sight, and that suffices. Later, Ji Xingyuan intended to leverage his family connections to provide her with some resources when she unexpectedly withdrew from the scene, presenting herself instead. Once one truly interacts with an idol, sharing daily moments and nurturing care, that simple admiration can transform, fermenting into a unique bond between man and woman. It is as simple as that, a story of willing hearts ensnared. The inaugural episode of TA and TA's Wonderful Journey has officially aired. Subsequently, the program erupted like a deep-sea torpedo, creating a tremendous splash. The Nanjing Zoo became a sensation, and it seems I have garnered some fame as well. Discussions about the show flooded Weibo, with several featured animals achieving outrageous popularity, and a plethora of fan art and related merchandise began to emerge. I glanced at the online discussions, which were overwhelmingly complimentary. The communication officer is so sweet, I can't even. The charm of the sweet girl taming a fierce tiger is just too much. I'm bowing in respect. Oars. The animals at this zoo are exceptionally intelligent. I feel like my pet at home pales in comparison to their tiger's understanding. I truly burst out laughing at Qi Xian praying for blessings from Crane Brother. Shouldn't you seek fortune from a koi instead of a red-crowned crane? Did you all see Yu Yebai's abs when he jumped in? Wow, so hot image. Beluga whale. Are you hot or am I? Image. Shu, he had me in stitches when she asked the communication officer what that dog meant. And the officer explained that the dog had fallen for little Shui at first sight. Her expression was simply hilarious. Teacher, when sending the fox dog home, was quite funny too. She seemed caught off guard when the filming teacher captured that moment, awkwardly trying to inform the owner that his dog was in an interspecies romance, that embarrassed yet unsaid expression. Wang Xingchuan feeding the raccoon was undoubtedly my source of joy this week. Emoji, emoji. Don't you find the guests quite amusing? Teacher, when communicates effortlessly with the animals, while the guests appear bewildered and clueless. He Swain, you had me in tears. Your fear of the tiger made you hesitant to approach. Yet you were clearly envious of it. How embarrassing. Indeed, they tried to mimic teacher when S actions, only for the animals to respond with, who are you? I want my keeper. Not all animals are like that. Little White seems quite fond of you, Yebai. They've been close multiple times. You, Yebai. You truly are the only pure white flower in the entertainment industry. Please don't look at Little White like a lovesick fool every time you see him. I used to be enamored by you, Yebai, but now I just think, whose silly son is this? Watching the guests feels like witnessing my former self evolve into a cat slave. I once coldly declared I could never like cats. I must mention that Teacher Wen was also an artist. I've seen her perform on stage before. Teacher Wen is simply too gentle and captivating. I hereby request a director to film a Beauty and the Beast series. I'd love to watch 20 episodes in a day, just kidding. Did you all catch a glimpse of the director fleetingly appearing on camera? Goodness, he looked so handsome. Is there a group purchase? Tickets for Nanjing Zoo are sold out for 3 months. I barely managed to snag a spot for a group of 10 oars. Seeing such fervent discussions filled our entire zoo staff with immense joy. Mo Sun was equally delighted. The first episode turned out this well. I truly am the rising star of the variety show industry. Ji Xingyuan, unhurried, replied, given the show's immense success, shouldn't we consider giving Xiaowen a raise?
Montag soon.
Unfazed, fixed his gaze on Ji Xingyuan holding my hand, smilingly remarked, I meant to say last time, your previous screensaver was indeed Miss One, right? Such a nauseating act of pretending to be the boss gave me goosebumps. Ji Xingyuan displayed his signature mocking smile. Mind your own business, surrounded by monkeys. And yet you call yourself the director. Indeed, since I had stepped away from the ranks of singlehood, it was Mo Sun who had become the target of the monkeys' ridicule. Mo Sun shifted the topic. Tomorrow is the final episode, and the theme is surprise guests. You might make an appearance. Ji Xingyuan retorted. Why would I want to appear? Don't play coy. Mo Sun replied with a warm smile. I see you scrolling through those comments on the internet where they call Miss Wen wife. You must be on the verge of bleeding from the frustration. Shouldn't you make a formal announcement before the entire nation? I turned to observe Ji Xingyuan's expression. Really? I had always thought he never bothered to check Weibo. Ji Xingyuan lowered his gaze to me, a smirk dancing on his lips. Do you really believe that? After a pause, he added, though, it is somewhat annoying. Mo Sun then lightly touched his arm. Oh. In the final episode, the production team made special arrangements, inviting several guests' family or friends to participate in the recording. The surprise guests were not necessarily celebrities. There were also some retired artists and ordinary individuals. He Suian invited his non-celebrity sister, He Suihuan. Qi Xian called upon her former teammate, Lin Luo. Xu Yi invited actor Qin Shuang. Yu Yebai brought along his friend from outside the industry, Qinan. And Wang Xingchuan brought his son, Wang Xiaobao. That day, the guide also included the director, Ji Xingyuan. The theme for this episode was farewell. The guests needed to complete one final task before formally bidding goodbye to their animal companions. All the guests were reluctant to part from the animals they had spent so much time with, and the animals, too, expressed their sentiments, albeit in different ways. The red-crowned crane maintained its gentle demeanor. In the future, avoid staying up late and obsessing over CPs. You should have a healthy routine like mine. The raccoon yawned. Next time, remember to sneak me some of your son's instant noodles. I want 10 packs this time. The snow fox imparted wisdom. About that guy you said you liked last time, listen to me. First do this, then that, and finally win him over. I felt my pupils dilate. I have an overwhelming sense of having inadvertently uncovered numerous secrets of the stars. As I noticed several guests eagerly gazing at me, I hesitated to disclose the animal's revelations, opting instead for a vague response. Brother Crane is quite concerned about the daily routines of contemporary youth. The little raccoon hopes to continue sharing snacks next time, and Little Snow believes that when faced with choices, one should forge ahead with courage. Upon finishing my remark, the director cleared his throat twice, prompting the animals to nod in unison. The guests once again marveled at the animal's intelligence, and I quietly remarked, "Director, they truly heed your words." Ji Xingyuan languidly replied, "Then I shall ensure they listen to you henceforth." I fell silent, attempting to tidy my hair in hopes of concealing my flushed ears. The filming crew lingered nearby, and I felt an overwhelming sense of immorality akin to engaging in a public display of affection at the taxpayer's expense. Our fourth stop was the aquarium. Yu Yebai had long shed his previous demeanor. The aloof charm he once possessed had been thoroughly melted away by the adorable beluga whale. He dashed forward, nearly bursting with anticipation to pet the whale. However, upon reaching the entrance, his expression shifted dramatically, and he anxiously turned to me, asking, "Teacher Xiaowen, what's wrong with the little white one?" I silently observed the beluga frolicking against the tempered glass, responding, "Never mind, it's just sharpening its teeth." Little White, perhaps having learned from someone, seemed perplexed as to why a beluga would need to sharpen its teeth. The director chuckled softly and said, "Yu Yabai told it he has starred in a toothpaste commercial, and Little White wishes to join him." Seeing that Little White ceased its antics as soon as Yu Yabai approached, he exhaled in relief, squatting down to nuzzle against the whale, his eyes nearly sparkling with emotion. "Little White, I must leave, so take good care of yourself. I promise to visit often in the future." He continued to babble, while the surrounding guests stifled their laughter. "He is no longer the aloof flower," Qi Xian incisively commented, "but rather a doting mother." This time, everyone burst into laughter. Our final destination was the tiger enclosure, a stark contrast to our first visit. Hisueon, though initially fearful of Fei Fei, had developed a profound bond with the tiger over the past few days, and there was now a palpable sense of bittersweet parting. Fei Fei affectionately nudged his hand, saying, "Brother, Fei Fei will miss you." Naturally, the next statement revealed Fei Fei as true motives. "Only you provide Fei Fei with extra treats. Fei Fei wants snacks." I thought to myself, let us keep this from Hisueon. Trailing behind Hisueon was a girl dressed in black, clutching a lollipop. Her delicate features and striking eyes radiated beauty, and when she stood in the sunlight, she resembled a golden flame. This was Hisueon's sister, Hisuehuan. She appeared just of age, standing beside me and offering a lollipop. "Teacher Xiaowen, thank you for taking care of my brother." "It's hardly anything," I replied, accepting the lollipop and smiling at Hisuehuan. "Thank you." The girl peered thoughtfully at the top of my head, musing, "It's all resolved. How strange." I was perplexed. "Huh. I initially intended to assist you." She shook her head, "But after your previous misfortunes were resolved, you won't encounter any more bad luck." Hisueon had mentioned that his sister could read fortunes. I asked in bewilderment, "Why is that?" "I don't know." The girl laughed lightly. "Some misfortunes dissipate through virtue. Some are consumed by mystical fire, and others can perhaps only be explained by fate." "This place suits you well," she said. "You've encountered wonderful people." I whispered, "You're amazing. How did you discern that?" "This isn't a matter of fortune-telling," Hisuehuan replied calmly, her lips curling into a slight smile. "It's evident from the director's gaze." I refrained from turning to look at the director, fearing my cheeks would betray my feelings in full view of everyone. I concentrated on maintaining my composure. The recording of the program officially concluded. After removing my makeup, I messaged the director, only to discover he had changed his profile picture at some point. It was a photograph of me, looking even more youthful than now. likely taken during my early days as an artist at a stage performance. I had thought I possessed no such image, yet how could I explain this exquisite photograph if it truly didn't exist? Suddenly, my phone vibrated. It was a message from a fortune-telling blogger. Darling, I wasn't lying to you. While I initially sought to comfort you, later, upon consulting my master, her predictions aligned. You and your benefactor are a destined pair. You are his fated one, and he is your chosen boyfriend. Another vibration followed. Sister Kai, my supervisor, messaged. Xiao Wen, the annual meeting sign-ups are coming up. Have you considered performing on stage? I'll let you in on a secret. Our director is a fan of yours. You'd undoubtedly take first place. He claims he hasn't seen any videos, but I've caught him watching your dance videos. But that's the way of true fans, I understand. When my phone vibrated for the third time, I didn't check who it was from, but stepped outside, only to behold the director waiting for me at the entrance. Director, I spotted the watch I had gifted him adorning his wrist. Inhaling deeply, I have feelings for you. I know. He appeared somewhat surprised, then smiled after a moment. Actually, had you not taken the initiative to come to the South City Zoo, I was planning to extend an invitation for you to join us. It just so happened that the timing was a day off. She had taken the initiative to stand by his side, and like him, she had gained the ability to communicate with animals. I will always be your unwavering support team. Ji Xingyuan lowered his gaze, his deep, dark eyes brimming with gentle emotions. The radiant and charming Xiaowen, I too harbor feelings for you. Fei Fei knows, Brother Crane knows, Lil Snow knows, and you know. I know. And all who know me are aware. Perhaps even the heavens are aware. The end of the story. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing and liking to support us. Until we meet again in the next tale.